Hello. So we're here today to talk about the books that I read in the month of October, because apparently it's fucking November now. What the fuck? This year I was planning on reading 100 books. I wanted to do the 100 book challenge. I've done it 2 other times. I did it in 2019 and 2021. And this year I wanted to beat my all-time record. In 2019, I read 107 books and 38,000 pages. That is the best I've ever done in a whole year. And I was like, yeah, I could top that. And so we're well on our way to doing that. I have read 111 books so far this year, and I've only read about 35,000 pages, so I'm like 3,000 behind the goal. But I'm on track to do that. So I'm still actively working to surpass that. My second stretch goal past that is I want to read 120 books. I want to read 120 books, and I want to read 40,000 pages because I deserve that. So I'm still working on it. I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm really happy with where I'm at, honestly. Like, my reading year has been the best year I think I've ever had. I've had way too many bangers. Like, my top books of 2024 video is going to have at least like 30 or 40 books. So you guys better buckle the fuck up. So anyway, in October I read 9 books, and the vibes have gotten weird, guys. Like, once you read 100 books, in my experience, I like slow down, and I don't know what to read anymore because I've read the most prominent parts of my immediate TBR, and so I'm just like digging through the library like, what books are available? What can I listen to? What sounds compelling today? Let's get into it. So I made a video about this series a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure you probably have not seen it because nobody watches my videos anymore, but I would beg you, I would implore you, I am on my knees. Change the prophecy. Please watch the goddamn video because it's a recommendation for this series, and this series has taken over my life. Like, I had a whole love affair with it during September, October. It's just brilliant. It's high fantasy, it's written by a woman, and it's queer as fuck, and it is A Course of Dragons. Everybody fucking scream. Like I said, I have a whole video about this if you want the down low. This is the second book. It's the first book that I read in October, but it's the second book in the series. I read this series all out of order this year. I read the 3rd book for the first time in July, and then I read the 4th and 5th books for the first time in September, and then after I finished the finale, I was like, fuck it, I might as well reread books 1 and 2 because I'm insane, and so I did that. And it was great. It was really fun, actually, because now I know what's going on, and so instead of being hopelessly confused, I spent the whole book being like, oh my god, it's my best friends! Woo! This is my least favorite book in the series. It's still like a solid 4-star read, but it's just, there's a lot of horses. It's a horse girl book. Don't let that deter you, but it is a horse girl book. However, the reason this book is so cool is because it focuses a lot on gender and transness and sexuality, and it does a lot of things that high fantasy just isn't doing these days. And so I highly recommend this series, and if you are not convinced by me telling you to read it right now, please watch the video. I made a very long video. It's elaborate, but it's really, really informative, I'd say. I did put a fun little infographic in the description of my Course of Dragons video because I got sick and tired of the internet having no information about any of the content of the series. And so it has like a timeline, and it explains all of the races and the different types of people, and then it also has like a connection, like a kind of like a family tree, but not really a family tree, to show like how everybody's connected. So check that out. Please check out the video. All of it is there. It's wonderful. You won't regret it. After that, I kind of took a turn for the strange. I don't really know how this happened. But this is the most surprising book that I read all year. I've read a lot of books. There were some surprises along the way. This one shocked me to my core. I read Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow. What the fuck? This is the Hamilton biography. This is the book that inspired Hamilton the musical. It is 700 pages of historical biography about the American Revolution, about the Founding Fathers, about Alexander Hamilton himself. And I've had this loosely on my TBR since 2015 when I bought this book for a college paper. Not really thinking that I would ever read it, more just keeping it as like a memento that I can see on my shelf and say, I am a Hamilton girly. Now I am a Hamilton girly, like quite literally. This is a 5-star read. It's so accessible. It's so interesting, compelling. Like, by the end of the book, I felt like the Founding Fathers were my friends. my shitty friends that I hate, but my friends nonetheless. And I also spent the whole time being like, damn, this is crazy. Somebody should write a musical about this. So it's good that that worked out for me personally. It's because of this book that Hamilton, the soundtrack, is now like one of my top played albums for 2024. And I only listened to it on repeat for like a month. But that's where we're at. That's how insane I am. So after I was reading all of this like fantasy and biography, I really needed a win. Like I needed a quick read, an audiobook to like push through. And so I decided to pick up One for My Enemy by Olive Blake. This has been on my backlog TBR for years. I just read her other backlog book, Masters of Death, a couple months ago. I really, really loved it. It's one of my favorites of the year. This one I have mixed feelings about. I think overall it is very Olive Blake. Like the characters are fantastic. It has such a great cast. I think the writing is really strong. I love the world, the magical world that she made. I think it's interesting. It's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet retelling without explicitly retelling Romeo and Juliet, which I really appreciated. It's written in like a 5-act structure. I had lots of pros. I really enjoyed it. Lots of pros. However, the main con that I have about it is that it went in a direction that I was not expecting and or wanting. I think the first half and the second half feel very different. The first half makes it seem like it's going to be like this tragic romance book, and that's true. Like that is what it is. But the second half felt a lot more political and like conniving and relationally like weird. And so like I enjoyed it. I had fun. By the end, I was not predicting how it was going to end, so that was good. But overall, it was like not quite what I wanted personal preference wise. And so it's like a solid 3.5 stars for me, I think. So it's still good. Happy that I read it. But when you've read like 111 books, suddenly your standards get really nitpicky, and like this is, it's a little bit forgettable, quite frankly. So that's a bit of a bummer, but it's fine. We move on. It's fine. So in the same vein, another book that I picked up on audio this month is Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I've been meaning to read this woman's books pretty much since Mexican Gothic got big. I think that was in like 2020. Which was almost 5 years ago. Let's not talk about that. The reason I picked this up is because one of my Substack buddies recommended it as like kind of a alternative to Night Film. And if you know me, I love Night Film. Night Film by Marisha Pessl, one of my all-time favorites. I think it's just so cool. It's such a cool book. And this one, Silver Nitrate, it definitely, they're kind of sisters. They got similar vibes going on. And I really do see how they're kind of connected, because this one, Silver Nitrate, also deals with the film industry and horror movies specifically. We have two main characters. So it's a woman who's in her late 30s, and she works as a sound editor in the film industry in Mexico City in the 90s, which is already just like delightful. Love that. And then the male main character is her friend who's about the same age, and he does acting, specifically voice acting. And so the two of them end up meeting up with this old horror movie director, and they come to find out that he is kind of connected to another director who is, he's a Nazi occultist sorcerer. So there's that. And you would think, based on that alone, the premise, the vibes, whatever, that it's a horror book, and I was convinced that it's a horror book, and it is not really. Like, it is, but that's my biggest qualm about this book, is that I think if it had been marketed differently, I would have appreciated it for what it is, and I do, but also I just had these really high expectations that it was going to be like really horrific and creepy. And I think like the thing that Night Film does so well is that it is horror. Like there is a lot in that book that is just like, it's terrifying. Like there is some creepy stuff that is like inexplainable by the end of it, and you're just like, what is happening? Whereas with Silver Nitrate, in some ways it does kind of explain everything, even if it is it is paranormal and supernatural, but it's just not, it's not as creepy or as scary as I was hoping for. That said, I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it a solid 4 stars on Goodreads, because I think the writing is really fantastic. Like as an author, I would definitely pick up more of her works in the future. I love the characters in this book so much more than the characters in Night Film. They're just better people and more enjoyable and more interesting, frankly. And I love that it reflects a lot on like friendship, romance friendship It felt very QPR to me in a lot of ways, which I appreciated. And I don't know, I think it does a lot of great things. I really appreciated it and enjoyed it. But I'm so sorry. I am a night film girly, and I did want it to be like terrifyingly horrific. It's just Nazis. Like, Nazis are scary, but come on. I need a little bit more from that, you know? That brings me to, I had to pull out the big guns. And by big guns, I mean I had to pull out this comic book series. I feel like I spent most of this month, like, trying to, like, bang out as many books as I could and not really knowing what to do about it. Like, I was just throwing spaghetti at the wall trying to finish a book here and there. And so I'd been meaning to finish reading this comic book series a couple months ago when I figured out that there were new editions, new issues, new volumes that I had not read, because I last read this series in 2021 for my challenge then. And it's Fence. It's fucking Fence by C.S. Pacat. And actually this series puts me over the top. Like, C.S. Pacat is now my most read author of 2024. So, that checks out, honestly. Fence is a comic book series about boys who fence. Shocking. It's set in high school, and so it's young adult, but it's so queer because C.S. Pacat is queer, obviously. And I was kind of nervous to see where the next volumes were going to take us, but volume 6 finally is delivering on the slowest slow burn of the century. Like, not quite, but like we are getting there, you know, like in probably like 3 to 4 volumes, we could have some really good content. There was some really cute scenes in this that I just really appreciated, and I love comic books because they're just fun picture books. Like, I'm sorry, I am just a child looking at the pretty fun pictures, trying to laugh at the jokes, you know? So I would highly recommend this series if you like Check Please or All for the Game. If you like sports comics, like, it's just a feel-good time. And if you're gay, like, these are super gay and cute, and I just, like, I'm obsessed. I was just squealing while I was reading volumes 5 and 6. Just fantastic. Because I'm going insane this year, I have, like, a bunch of books on my reread list that it's like, okay, like, I just reread these books over and over. It's like the brain rot, you know? Like, I read All for the Game multiple times a year. I'm going to be reading Captive Prince multiple times a year going forward. Like, The Raven Cycle is on this list. Red, White, and Royal Blue is on this list. But there's one series that I've only read twice, and I was like, I need to read it a third time before we get the next book announced because I'm so hopelessly lost and confused. And that series is The Locked Tomb by Tamsin Muir. And I am going to make another video about The Locked Tomb because I realized recently that the only time I have discussed The Locked Tomb was in my favorite books of 2021 video, where I said that I had read Gideon and Harrow, and I was like, I loved Gideon, but I didn't understand Harrow, and so I hated it. And anyway, that's not true. Not anymore. I have a very crazy relationship with The Locked Tomb, as I'm sure most of you do. And so this month I decided, like, fuck it, I am going to do a reread, and I'm going to sit my ass down and learn and take notes and understand what the fuck is going on, because it is the most confusing series I think I've ever read. And I have read A Chorus of Dragons, and I have read House of Leaves. I have read a lot of convoluted, crazy books, but Tamsin Muir takes the cake as probably the most confusing book series I've ever read. The sad part is, like, most of the hints are there. Like, it's in the text. If you just, like, study the text, I just don't have any brain cells, and so I have no idea, like, how to, like, decipher any of the text. So I'm in the middle of reading Harrow for the third time right now, about halfway, and I am having so much more fun with it because I understand what's going on. And if you haven't read The Locked Tomb, this is lesbian necromancers in space. It is just the most insane series you could even imagine. It has memes from, like, the 2010s in here, which is great. God is personified as a dude. His name is John. We hate him. It's set like 10,000 years in the future, and it's kind of like a murder mystery in book 1. Book 2 is just, like, redacted, and then book 3, which I have only read once, but I will be rereading very, very soon, is just silly. It's just a silly time, a silly goose time. I'm optimistic that we could get Electo next fall. Please, publishing gods, give it to me. But I just, like, I wanted to have a handle on everything before the next book comes out, because I'm so hopelessly lost. And so yeah, I am losing my mind a little bit, but it's fine. We're gonna talk about it soon. So if you like the Locked Tomb or you have questions or you wanna chat with me about that, please comment down below because I need more people to talk to about all my favorite things. So chaos, just chaos. That's what October was. So going forward, I don't know what the fuck is gonna happen in November and December, but I have a very weird TBR setup, and there is a possibility, more than a possibility, there is a good chance we will get the second Sunshine Court book in December, so I'm very, very hopeful about that. That's what you missed on Glee. I'm already trying to do like goals and plans for 2025. I know it's like 2 months too soon, but like I actually don't care. So I don't know, I'm planning on doing some pretty interesting things in 2025, reading wise. I'm trying desperately to figure out how to get back to YouTube in a more consistent way because I think it would be really fun for all of us. So yeah, please talk to me in the comments. That's what I want. I want to know how you are. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know what you're interested in, what videos you want to see, all of the above. If you just want to like yell about the Locked Tomb, that'd be good too. So anyway, I'm gonna go. Great, awesome. Thanks for watching. Bye.